What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to the Funky Brain Podcast. And my name is Dennis, and we're here with my funky brain. Our guest today, he's a published author, an MBA, and a business leadership and life coach. And he's created a format called A Beautiful Life that can help individuals transition into becoming their true selves and become an important footnote for society. Mr. Torre Castagnier. How are things going in 2020 for you? Are you hanging in there? Everything going okay?
Well, luckily, being able to adapt to a changing environment always has its signs of struggle. Being able to have one foot forward and being optimistic to the idea that things will get better, because people in general, we are strong. We overcome a lot of things in our life. And so as far as 2020 is concerned, I don't try to look at this year as being a bad year. It's just a year that had the most obstacles that trained us to adapt better.
That is beautiful stuff, man. I love that. Obstacles, just little bumps in the road. You can take it however you want. It could be the most detrimental thing, or it could be the biggest stepping stone to the rest of your life, right?
It's not that 2020 is a bad year. It's just that 2020 has had so many new obstacles in our path that we have to learn more ways to adapt. And this has been a great, great training year for that.
Yeah, I love that, man. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your story? Like, what got you to where you are now? What got you into coaching? Like, all that stuff.
My past started off a little rocky. I'm adopted, and I was going from family to family, losing consciousness of the idea of who I am as a person. And my teenage years and younger adult years, my trauma from my childhood affected everything that I did. All I did was try to look for attention from other people, whatever it was I can do to be accepted by others, rather than learning how to accept myself for me. And so I would say around 25, I went through a very terrible breakup. And that's usually what changes us, right? It's that one terrible breakup that you have to think to yourself, was it me, or was it the other person? And so I started to use a lot of self-reflective techniques, meditation, focusing on me, just being alone with my thoughts. And it was scary. But then I started to come up with all these different things I wanted to work on to better myself. And when I seen the results of all the things that I've done in, I want to say, 7-year span, I wanted to be able to share that with other people, because I had friends who was going through the same process as me. Oh, Torre, I'm starting school, but it's just so hard for me. Torre, I'm looking for this, or I don't really know what I want to do. And it all reminds me of everything that went through in my past. And one thing that I've always heard is the profession isn't chosen, it chooses you. And every time that people come to me and tell me about their problems or tell me that something is wrong, I have this really deep desire to just be there and be like, hey, I think I got something that can help you. Try this out or try that out. I got so many different techniques that you can use. And so I started to help a lot of people, even at my job that I was at work. Like, my management team would be like, you spend a lot of time with your employees. And I was like, yeah, because they keep coming to me for help. I don't know what to tell you. But I started to learn that that's what I love to do. It wasn't the idea that I wanted to be the person that helped them. It's that I wanted to be able to share whatever it was that I learned so that other people wouldn't have to find out the hard way. And sometimes we go through those hard things to make us better people. But some of these things, if a person's really ready for change, it's easier for them to accept that information and receive it so they can be more productive and efficient in their life.
Yeah, well put. And now you use the breakup as your pain. When I was looking into your coaching a little bit, what principle would you recommend to build self-confidence?
When it comes to self-confidence, because that is like my number one thing. Building self-confidence is hard, especially, I would tell you from my experience of self-confidence, I was that kid in the 90s that wore those free glasses that you can get at the eye doctor, the ones in that case that was about this large, and I had the string around it. My confidence was down. And so that was one of the things I wanted to learn myself, was how can I build my own self-confidence? And so I started to compare it to like cooking. If someone asks you to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you know how to do it, you'll do it with confidence because you know it. You know how to do it. You know the ingredients. You understand the science behind it. It can be made. If someone be like, will you make a nasty peanut butter and jelly sandwich? You'd be like, no, my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are amazing. I even toast the bread. And so we put that same aspect in what we do. In order to be able to have that self-confidence, one of the best principles that I like to focus on is identity, because identity focuses on learning who you are, understanding who you are at a mindset to the point where you know your bad, your good personality traits, but you are accepting of it. You have to be able to accept all of you. You have to be able to stop trying to change your flaws. Identity talks about how there's no such thing as perfect. Trying to look for a perfect person is like looking for water on the sun. It's not going to happen. So you have to accept yourself for your flaws, so therefore you can be the best imperfect version of yourself. Once you have that, you know who you are, just like you know how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, then that confidence starts to grow. And then also with that in identity, to help build that self-confidence is by learning how to try new things and just developing those new things over and over again, because doing new things over and over again builds that confidence, because you're doing things you never thought you can do. I went skydiving 4 years ago off of a bet. Someone just was like, Torre, I bet you want to go skydiving. And I was like, you know what? You're right, but now I'm going to go. And I went because I was curious. I was like, you know what? This is something new. Let me see how it is. After I went skydiving, first of all, I hated roller coasters that go upside down. I was always not getting on any roller coaster that went upside down. After I jumped out of a plane, I got on every roller coaster at Six Flags, no matter if it went upside down, if it went too fast. I was like, you know what? If I jumped out of a plane, I could do anything right now.
And you have that self-confidence. You could totally tell. And then, along with self-confidence, what comes after that is that self-love, self-respect, that self-care. When you're taking care of yourself, you feel better about yourself. You become more successful. And that comes from working on yourself. It doesn't come the other way. It doesn't work the other way. It's not like, oh, if I make a bunch of money, then I'm going to be a better person. It doesn't work that way, right?
No.
When you take care of yourself, take care of your body, your mind, your spirit as best as you can, because we are all imperfect, and do the best you can. And then that leads to that self-love and that self-confidence and self, which ultimately leads to that self-mastery, that life mastery, where we can become the best versions of ourselves. I love how you said the best imperfect versions of ourselves. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, and what advice would you give to people who feel it's hard to become successful?
That's like one of the top feelings we get the first time we try something, right? You remember that first goal you had and you always had that doubt in your mind, like, I don't know if I should do that. My very first book took me 12 years to publish because the first 10 years I doubted that I should ever finish it. And it was the last 2 years that I was just like, why am I doubting myself? One of the things that I like to tell people about success, and if you feel like success doesn't work your way, is you have to be comfortable with failure. Yeah. You have to accept failure. You have to be ready and open to failure. It's like when you try to talk to a woman or someone that you see that's attractive and you say, okay, now they might say no, but you know what? I had enough confidence in me now. I'm going to go ahead and say something anyway and go. If they say no, they say no. One of the things that it comes to being successful is we just have to try. We have to do it. We have to be okay with if it fails, it fails. But life is too short to be afraid of failure and to have never succeeded in the first place. I would rather fail 300 times and have that one success than to never have tried at all and to stay in a place where I feel like success is not possible.
Yeah, you have to keep trying, right? And here's another take on failure that I heard, because everybody has that fear of failure. It's almost like a natural human instinct, which is unfortunate, but it helps us get stronger, or it kills us. It makes us or breaks us. another take on it that I heard from the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's like, nobody ever fails at anything. All we do is produce results. So,
Yeah.
what do you do with the results that you produce? His example was like, if I throw you a football and you drop the football, are you a football failure? No, you're like, just, you produced a result. You're like, I'll throw you the football again. And then you start catching the football. Now you're a football success, right? So if you're a real estate agent and you have this big deal on the line and the deal falls through, are you a real estate failure? No, you go out, you're like, oh, I learned what happened on this deal. And then you go sell another house and you become a success, right? So we don't fail at anything. We just produce results. Now, if you stop trying and give up, and then you can ultimately become a failure that way. But, as long as you just like make an effort, use those results to make you stronger, you're going to have a better chance of getting where you want to be. What recommendation do you have for people who are suffering to achieve their long-term goals?
So when it comes to long-term goals, one of the hardest things to achieving long-term goals is the idea of how long and far away it is. If I'm starting off with my associate's degree, but in my mind, I want my master's, if all I think about is the master's, it's harder to attain it because I don't see any type of growth and development getting towards that goal. And so what I tell my clients all the time is if you have a large goal, you need to break it down into pieces. You need to be able to see the small successes so that it can help motivate you forward so that you can hit that long-term goal. That's the reason why you hit that associate's in the first 2 years, because that's that motivation. You're like, yes, I got the first degree. Now another 3 years and I'll get the bachelor's. 3 years go by. Now you made your next goal. You had your bachelor's. Now you only need another 3 more years. And guess what? The master's is there. It's the same with any long-term goal. If your goal is that you want to be a successful mogul, okay, well then there needs to be a lot of small success stories that you need to do to get to that level. But if we only look at the long-term goal, I want $1 million by the end of the year. Okay, that's nice. But what are going to be those short-term goals to get you there? Because the very first thing when it comes to long-term goal is that time stops us from reaching it because we don't see it. If you don't see it into fruition, you're going to lose motivation. And the motivation is one of the most important things that you need to achieve a long-term goal. And it also goes back to the second question when it comes to success and being fearful of success. When you can create smaller goals and actually achieve those smaller goals, you are not afraid of failure no more. You're not afraid that it's not going to work because as you're moving along this path, you're winning. It's like playing a video game. Once you beat level 1 to 10, level 11, you're going to be like, I got this. Now, will you die at a level 11? Maybe. The big boss is there. But at least you got that confidence, and now you've learned enough from the first 10 levels that when you get to that boss on level 11, you're going to use all that prior knowledge so that you can beat it. Same thing with long-term goals.
But when you're talking about those big long-term goals, we call those umbrella goals. So yeah, well, if I sit down with somebody like, I want to make $1 million a year, how much are you making now? Well, like 20,000. So, do you have the skills? Do you have the resources? Do you know the right people to even get you there right now? Why don't we work on making $40,000 a year? Because that's going to be double your income right now. That's 100% growth. And then we'll chip away at that. Now, maybe in 2 or 3 years, you can get there if you start doing the work and start doing the right things. Or maybe it's more of a 10-year plan. But we have to keep it in manageable chunks. So you, like you said, so you stay motivated, stay confident because you start achieving those goals along the way. And that's what's going to get you to those next levels and enjoy the ride along the way. And building that self-confidence, taking care of yourself, the self-love, all that type of stuff. I love that. So share with us some of the tools that you use to navigate through your own challenges in life. I know you were talking about you were adopted and you had some struggles along the way there. Now, and you overcame those. So what are some of those challenges, your biggest ones right now, and what kind of tools are you using on a daily basis to get you through those?
One of my biggest challenges right now that I face is myself. It's because one thing that I learned now that I wasn't taking into consideration before is that self-doubt can come from anywhere. And you have to put yourself in check. And that was one of the things that I was lacking for the past 6 to 7 months, was the idea of putting myself in check, reminding myself, hey, listen, don't doubt yourself. You got this. Like, you've been doing good so far. You will get yourself there. Just keep pushing yourself. And it reminds me, because it was actually a video I was going to record. I haven't finished it yet, but it talks about putting ourselves in check, reminding ourselves. Because think about, remember back to that bad breakup? That bad breakup I had, it was eye-opening because she told me so much about myself that I needed to hear, that I was like, wow, am I really that terrible? And so if you don't do that enough to yourself alone, if you don't have those self-reflection moments alone to talk to yourself and say, hey, you've fallen off a little bit. You was doing really good last week, and now this week you got too comfortable. And that's one of the things that's my biggest challenge, is learning that I have become my own enemy, and then making sure that I realize that, so I can keep myself in check, so I can continuously be successful.
I would like to add on that a little bit. Yes, we need to stay, somewhat accountable to ourselves and continue to grow and recognize when I'm off a little bit. But, it rarely happens, at least to the levels that we want to, on our own. Like, we need a coach or an accountability partner or a mentor, right? That's
Yeah.
why we are in business, because depending, if you want to hit that $1 million goal or find that next awesome relationship, the love of your life that's going to be around for the next 60 years, whatever it is, I need to be the best version of me. And
Yeah.
rarely, rarely get there on my own. It almost always requires accountability. Without the accountability, right, the subconscious mind takes over and says, 3 months later, it's like, I can establish these goals for myself. I'm going to say, I want to make this much, look like this, act like this, have this girl, have this house and this car. But if I start working towards there, I start seeing some progress. And 3 months later, I'm like, I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to ease off a little bit. If I have somebody who's like calling bullshit on me or keeping me accountable, or, holding my feet to the fire to hit all those manageable goals, I have a way, way higher success rate.
I have noticed that too, like especially with my book, because like I told you, it took until the 10th year before I was like, okay, this needs to be published. But it wasn't just me in that 10th year. It was someone I was talking to about goals. And she was like, well, did you finish the book? I was like, yeah, I've been finished it. Why didn't you publish it? I don't know. Well, then what are you doing? What are you waiting on? And so even then, just like you said, because we all need someone, like we have to have a team. And me holding that's also me learning. I hold myself accountable, having someone else to hold me accountable. But learning that, like you said, that subconscious mind will get really relaxed. Because when I finished the book, my brain was like, well, we finished the book. I don't really see what else we need to do here. Like, let's just chill out and relax. What's the next thing to do? What other goals do you want to work on? Not knowing that I was just falling into my own trap.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, man. Yeah. And then to keep going too. It's like, once I hit that, what you were just saying, once I hit that goal, then there's another goal. So when I'm working with people, we work on the one thing, not five things. Like, you can't work on five major goals at the same time. You never get them done. If you go to your New Year's resolutions, right? Here's my 5 New Year's resolutions. They never last for anybody. 99.9% of the time, they don't last because there's too many plates in the air. We're all juggling all this stuff. I got to get these five major goals done in next New Year's Eve. It's the same five things on that New Year's list. You just lost a year. So what we work on is the one thing. We have to find that one thing. It might be an emotional goal, a financial goal, a physical goal. We don't know. Get closer to God, spirituality, whatever.
Right.
One thing, one major goal. Now, some of them you can do in conjunction with the others, but we really want to just work on one major goal. Get that done, break it into manageable chunks, action steps that are time bound and manageable. Get those done. And then we get that done, and now we're successful, and we move to the next one thing. There's always a new one thing. Yeah.
I got like 60 things written on a book right now for what I'm going to do next after I accomplish the goal I'm working on now.
That's so awesome, man. Outside of working with people like in your business to help them improve and become more successful, like what inspires you? What inspires Torre to be the best version of Torre?
The reaction that I see from other people when I'm around them inspires me to still be a better version of myself. I remember one quote I've always heard as a child, and it never made sense to me until I became a life coach. And that was, in order for you to change the world, you must first change yourself. And for the longest, as a child, I was just like, that makes absolutely no sense. I was just like, it's the world that needs to change, not me. But then as I started to progress myself and started to go through that self-development, and I noticed my own changes, but when I noticed that my changes inspired other people, when I noticed that people seeing me be able to accomplish my goals because I'm focused, when people call me and say, hey, you want to go out to eat? I can't. I'm working on homework. I'm doing this. I'm busy. And then next, I call them next week. What you doing? Oh, I'm gonna be like you. I need to stay in because I need to get my grades up. When I notice that, that's what inspires me to continue to be a better version of myself, because I can see that the more that I work on me, the more that I keep a positive light, the people that I'm surrounded by stays positive too. And that is my number one inspiration.
Yeah, and continue to grow always, right? It's like we never really arrive. Like we're going to sleep for a really long time after we die. Like,
Yeah.
let's keep moving. But I mean, there's times we want to sit down and get in silence and reflect and, get centered and stuff like that. But it's like, let's keep moving forward. One example I always like to use is like, we always want to be pushing uphill. Because if we're not pushing uphill, we're sliding downhill. There's no like leveling out. There's no planing out or hanging out. But the difference is people misinterpret that. They think pushing uphill means struggling. It doesn't have to mean struggling. It just means I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday. Right?
Exactly.
So always try to be better. And then go on vacation every now and then and just kind of chill out, and you don't have to worry about that. Then keep pushing forward,
I love the vacation part because I tell a lot of my clients to always take at least one solo vacation every 2 years if possible. It is, and if you're watching this now and you've never taken a solo vacation, I am telling you it will change everything you thought about when it comes to taking a vacation. The idea of just focusing on you, everything is about, you don't have to be responsible for no one else's fun. You get to do what you want to do. If you just want to relax and do nothing, it's you. It is so helpful to the self-reflective process.
Yeah, I love that. And I do, a few months ago, I went up to the mountains. I live in Colorado. So I went up to the mountains it was almost a week, just me. And I hiked 50 miles that week. And I sat out on the lake in a kayak and just just try and talk with God. I had to talk with God about life, whatever God is.
Yeah.
And, I got really centered and was able to figure out some stuff. And I'm going through a really challenging time in my life right now. And, but I'm able to work through it, feel it all the way through, and learn the lesson I'm supposed to learn from it and apply it to my life to become better. Right.
Right.
Do you have a coach or a mentor?
2 coaches, 6 mentors, and a lot of friends who always seem to want to call me and be like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you up to? You on track? You staying on track? Because I see some success." But yes, I am a firm believer. Actually, one of my principles is called atmosphere shifter, and it talks about how the circle you surround yourself with allows your success to grow. If I want to be successful, then I want to make sure I'm around successful people. I'll be around people who are, or they don't have to be successful. They could be the ones that's trying to be as successful as me. One thing that we always like to do is we say, oh, well, that person's not as successful as I want to be, so maybe I don't want to really work with that person. But you'll be surprised, 2 people trying to climb the same ladder, how much you can learn about a ladder together. And so it's better to always have surrounding people. I have a mentor who does what I'm doing now. I have a mentor who's already did it and has surpassed that level. And I have a mentor who's just now starting off but working their way there. It's all around because that person wants to be successful. That person has that drive. They're working hard. And I admire that. And seeing that, I'm like, oh yeah, you're going to definitely be my mentor, because I can see us working hand in hand together and helping each other out. But yes, a team, just like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It always takes a team to build success. Always.
I agree. Whenever you see the moguls that we see all the time, the Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, like all the Richard Branson, all the biggest people in the world, none of them did it by themselves. And they'll tell you that. Not one of them. They all have, nobody says that, nobody makes that sole decision that makes the $1 billion. They have teams, they have meetings, they troubleshoot, they do things, and then they fail. And then they test things, and then then they launch an idea that changes everything. But nobody does this life thing successfully on their own. We all have some sort of help. And again, to go back to accountability, I have a coach. My coach is my mentor. Without him, I wouldn't be hitting all my goals. So if I hang out with 5 millionaires, I'm going to be the next millionaire. If I hang out with 5 drunks on a bar stool or 5 stoners playing Xbox, I'm going to get really good at Xbox. Yeah. So if that's your goal, keep playing Xbox. But if you want to make that $1 million, you're going to have to do something else, and surround yourself with successful people. Torre, this has been awesome, man. I really enjoyed talking with you. Maybe we can do it again sometime.
Of course. I'll be glad to do it. And I thank you for having me on. This has been an amazing experience.
Oh, and Torre, how do people get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
All right. So my website, copaceticcoaching.com. My phone number is 312-448-8111. And you can just follow me on all social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Just look up Copacetic Coaching. You can even Google Copacetic Coaching and I will pop up.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm sure a lot of people are going to do that. I appreciate your time and your expertise, and have a beautiful day today. And same to you, everybody who is tuning in. Have a beautiful day today, and we'll talk to you soon. So you can't think your way into a new way of acting. You have to act your way into a new way of thinking and being. Hi, I'm Dennis Berry, best-selling author, speaker, and life coach for addiction recovery. So many people are stuck in their addiction, whether it's like drugs or alcohol or food or shopping or sex or money, and they think they could just stop or try to figure it out on their own, but they don't change anything in their lives. Nothing changes if nothing changes. In order for change to happen, you have to change something. My clients will be like, oh, I'll stop tomorrow, or if this happens, then I stop, or someday I'll just give it up. And then they just sit around and think, and hope for different or better results, but it doesn't happen. You have to take action. Action most people aren't willing to take. People don't become willing until they're in enough pain, me included. And unfortunately, they wait and they wait. And time passes by. Even if you are willing, you don't even know where to begin. And that's where I come in. In my best-selling book, Funky Wisdom, A Practical Guide to Life, I talk about the how approach. How do I get sober? How do I stop doing drugs? How do I become healthier? How do I have more successful relationships? How do I become more financially successful? And the answer is how. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I have to honestly admit that there's a problem. I have to honestly admit that things aren't going well and there needs to be changes. And then once I do that, the door opens and I become open to seeing new ways of living. And then I become willing to make those changes. You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. That's why I'm here to help. And, I've been working with clients for over 15 years and helping them get clean and sober and change their lives and achieve inner peace and success. If you or somebody you love is struggling and doesn't know where to begin and how to make those changes to get to where they need to be, give me a call. Not tomorrow or in a week from now when you're hungover and your life is falling apart. Call now. Start making that change today and you'll be glad that you did. I'm sending you love and good vibes. Have a great day today.